Did you know that the US freight trucking industry is worth more than $1 trillion? That should not be surprising given that we see 18-wheelers rolling down the highways all the time. And also, professional truck driver remains one of the most common jobs in our entire country, coming in at over 3.5 million people this year. But this industry is really old school and inefficient. It's definitely not one of those industries that has embraced technology to optimize their processes. This is where LaneAxis comes in. They are creating specialized software that uses AI and blockchain technology to solve many of the inefficiencies in this industry. So in this sponsored video, I'll give you a closer look at what they're all about and touch more on the utility of their Axis token as well. If that sounds interesting to you, then strap in, my friend, and let's roll the intro. Okay, before we dive into all of the features and token, let's take a step back first and better understand how this industry works. Don't worry, I'll give you the highlights and not bore you with the nitty-gritty details. So when it comes to freight trucking, you have your shippers who produce the goods, like manufacturers or retailers. Then you have your carriers, which are your trucking companies. And then you have your drivers, of course. Sounds simple, but unfortunately, shippers and carriers don't really have a good way to directly do business together. That's why there are brokers who sit in the middle and coordinate stuff for them. Relying on middlemen is of course not preferred, but unfortunately that's needed in this industry. In fact, the number of freight brokers are increasing every year because of rising demand. And that's not all. There are several other problems in this industry that are magnified because of how the system is set up. Like close to 20% of all miles being driven by these trucks are done when nothing is being carried. These are called empty miles, and it's a huge waste. For drivers, they often have to wait 3 or more hours to load and unload their cargo, and this costs them valuable time and money. For the carrier companies, they faced increasing regulatory and compliance burdens, as well as having to manage complex contracts. Now, of course, there are some existing software solutions that help manage things, but they often are super expensive, and given the fact that 90% of trucking companies are smaller operations, like they own 6 trucks or less, you can see why they want to stay low tech instead of use those pricey and complicated tools. LaneAxis took a look at all of these problems while realizing that technology has improved significantly, and they were like, it's time to build something better, something that solves the core issue. Yep, they want to let shippers and carriers work together directly and reduce their reliance on middlemen brokers. So they're going to build a platform that helps with this. Shippers and carriers will be able to search for each other and connect directly. They'll be able to manage and negotiate terms and fees from within the platform, access past data and records which are stored on the blockchain, and see performance scores that LaneAxis will generate for all parties, whether they be shippers, carrier companies, or even individual drivers. But what does this all mean for the participants though? Well, commissions, which are usually 20 to 50% of each shipment, will be reduced dramatically, which means carriers and shippers can save quite a bit of money. Technology will also help reduce load times, driver detention disputes, and things like that, so drivers can also save money and reduce headaches as well. These are just some of the benefits that the LaneAxis platform will bring, but I hope you can get a sense for how they are combining data, AI, and blockchain to help them bring it all together. As for their fee structure, it's pretty simple. For shippers, they pay a 1% fee per load as a transaction fee and $5 per load as the freight tracking fee. For carriers, they are deducted a 1% transaction fees when things are settled, and they can choose to use FreightVision tracking for $1 per load as well. The Axis token is used for accessing data and things like that, but in general, this is how LaneAxis makes money. As for how the LaneAxis solution works end-to-end for a shipment, I found this graphic from their white paper, which makes things crystal clear. It starts when a carrier company adds their drivers to their account. Then the driver downloads the FreightVision app and completes their profile. Then the carriers and shippers search for each other through the network and makes a deal. The carrier assigns a shipper's load to one of the drivers, and then the driver reviews the details in the app and accepts. They then show up at the shipper's location to start the process and get their payment, all without any brokers involved. Pretty simple and elegant, right? Now, in terms of how LaneAxis utilizes blockchain, it's not just lip service and a marketing buzzword for them. They actually integrate blockchain and crypto extensively in their system. It actually gets a little complicated, so I won't bore you with all the details. But I'll give you some highlights, of course, and if you want to learn more, you can always check out their white paper on their website. So the Axis token is actually an ERC20 token. But of course we know that Ethereum transactions are super pricey due to high gas fees. So LaneAxis will actually run on the Optimism Layer 2 network, which will enable them to have much faster and cheaper transactions and be able to send a lot of them at once. Now, besides their own ERC20 token, they also utilize USDC throughout their system for things like payments and escrow. They also will create smart contracts for managing payments and dispute resolution between carriers and shippers. These smart contracts will track things like order identifier, the delivery time of the cargo, etc. But let's zoom in more to the Axis token. There will be 1.5 billion total Axis tokens, with 40% in their reserve, 10% for a private sale, 15% for marketing funds, and the final 35% for their network circulation. They're going to airdrop some tokens to the carrier's wallets, but users can also trade USDC for Axis within their platform and use it to pay for services. These services include the tracking of shipments, like carriers can track their loads using the FreightVision app and pay for it with a token. They can also connect to shippers directly by sending them invitations and pay for this connection service with their Axis token. All participants, including outsiders like insurance companies, can also pull data from the platform like wait times, detention times, etc., and pay for all of this with their Axis token. So you can see all the use cases that they have in mind for Axis, not to mention they plan on adding more in the future like decentralized lending, spare capacity trading, and much more. It's always good to see a token be packed with utility because that likely translates to demand for the token in the future. Oh, and they recently launched staking for their token as well, so you can hold Axis and earn quite a bit of yield on them in various pools with different lockup periods. If you want more info about this, you can check out their token website that I'll link you down below. Now, as for the company and the team behind this project, they've actually been around since 2015, really focused on building software for the transportation industry, as well as their brokerless shipper carrier network that I mentioned earlier. Their existing platform doesn't utilize crypto or blockchain, but that's the next iteration of their platform to make things even better for their customers. The team is led by Rick Burnett, and you can take a closer look at all of their backgrounds if you go on LinkedIn and check out their profiles. In terms of their roadmap, you can check out this graphic I found on their white paper. They've been busy the first half of this year expanding their network, building out more revenue streams, and integrating their token throughout their system. Now they are developing algorithms to help reduce empty loads in trucks and just focus on growing their market share in this industry. By the way, none of this is financial advice, of course. If you like this project and want to buy their token, definitely do more due diligence yourself. The purpose of this video is just to give you an overview and introduce this interesting project to you. If you want to learn more, you should definitely go check out their token website I mentioned earlier. It's separate from their main company website. Anyways, I'm Kevin from Coinsider. Can't wait to see you on the next one, and cheers.